Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Belmont Journal, your source for news about Belmont and community updates. And let's start with community announcements. You are invited to attend and participate in a public forum hosted by the Select Board on Tuesday, September 28th at 7 p.m. about the replacement of the DPW Fuel Tanks. The meeting will be held exclusively by Zoom webinar. You can find all the information you need about the project on the town website. We're joined now by Kathy Keohane, Vice Chair of the Library Board of Trustees and member of the Library Building Committee. We're also joined by Marcie Schorr Hirsch, who is a member of the Belmont Library Foundation and a member of the Library Building Committee. So, Kathy, let me just start with you really quickly. We've talked before, and it would be fair to say that the library building is nearing the end of its useful life. Can you just tell us real quickly what some of the problems are before we get into the fundraising?
Yeah, no, happy to. So I think folks know that the library building has been, on the list for consideration for almost 20 years. And what we're faced with is that all of the major systems are at the end of the life. So I think, although we've been talking about this for years, the condition we're in right now is urgent. When we talk about the major systems, it's the electrical system that is struggling to handle the air purifiers that we need for COVID. And why do we need those? Because the HVAC system can't support the filters that we should have.
Right.
The elevator is at its end of its life, the electrical, fire alarm, the roof, I think the list goes on. And the challenge is that these items can't be done in isolation. So when you talk about replacing the fire alarm, well, there's an electrical dependency. There's a dependency on the elevator. So we really are at a critical juncture and really need to press forward with a plan. And I think that's where the foundation comes in and really helping us as a community achieve this critically important goal.
Okay, Kathy, so the building absolutely needs to be replaced soon. So Marcie, let me ask you about the Flash Fundraiser. What is it and what's your goal?
Okay, well, our goal is to help get a new building, a new home for our library, which is desperately needed. And our way of helping to make that goal a reality is to get the citizens of Belmont engaged in supporting that effort through making donations during the Flash Fundraiser campaign. This is not our full capital campaign. The full capital campaign will come later. This is really engagement and education. Because the library has done such a great job of keeping it looking good inside, people don't know that the situation is dire. And so this campaign is an effort to educate people about the fact that our library is in danger of disappearing. And if we want a library in Belmont, we need to find it a new home, and it has to go in that spot. There isn't any place else for it. So we have schematic designs, we have a plan, and we have a budget for that plan. And this is an effort to begin making contributions toward making that happen.
So Marcie, let me ask you how long the Flash Fundraiser is running, and if somebody wants to make a donation, how can they do that?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. Thanks, Mike. It's very easy. You can go online, www.newlibraryfund.org, and that will take you right to the site where you can put that on your charge card and be done. We are interested also in including you as a supporter so that other people in the community will know that their neighbors and friends also are interested in a new library building, and that will help spread the word. So it's kind of a viral effort. This is going to run, it's very finite. It just kicked off on Monday and it will run through October 30th. So we're really asking people for a short period of attention, a quick small donation, get us off and running.
So Kathy, let me ask you, after the fundraiser, what comes next?
Well, even before, I think the fundraiser is running in parallel to some of the activities we're doing. On October 4th, we're meeting with the Board of Selectmen. The Library Board of Trustees is joint session with the Select Board to talk about a path forward. I'm sure folks have questions, are eager for more information about the library condition. There's information on the website, and we also encourage you to participate on October 4th.
I'd like to welcome back Joanna Tzouvelis, senior multimedia journalist with the Citizen-Herald, which you can find online at belmont.wickedlocal.com. How are you, Joanna?
I'm great. Thank you, Michael.
All right, so Belmont continues to be plagued by overnight car break-ins. What can you tell us?
Well, there were recently 16 overnight car break-ins reported to the Belmont police. Many of them were in the Winbrook area, and there were also 3 car thefts, Michael. Belmont police are reminding residents to lock your car doors overnight and don't leave valuables inside, and also don't leave your spare keys inside. So what happened was the 3 car thefts took place on Sherman Street, Horace Road, and Sabina Way, and all of them happened because there were either spare keys inside the vehicle that was unlocked or a spare key inside another unlocked vehicle in the driveway. And the 16 cars that were broken into were also on like Albert Ave, Stella Road, Toby Road, Sandrick Road, Channing, like I said, mostly Winbrook area. Some had valuables inside, like wallets with $100 to $300 in cash, a backpack with an iPad.
Joanna, the common thread seems to be that people are not locking their car doors. Is that the issue?
That's the common thread. And dogs barking is not deterring the burglars. And there were a lot of dogs barking. That's how people discovered this. And surveillance, there is surveillance video that detectives are looking at to try to catch the suspects. And there's also some fingerprints that were recovered. But in the meantime, everybody should remember to lock their car doors and don't leave your spare keys inside.
And don't leave valuables. So Joanna, tell me, what is the problem with beginning work on a house renovation without the proper permits?
Well, the problem is, Michael, if you get caught, it's very costly. And this happened to a Somerville builder. He learned the hard way that you needed a variance and a special permit from the Belmont Zoning Board of Appeals before he could put a substantial second-story addition on a home that he purchased last year. So keep in mind, this was actually a home that suffered a fire. It's 81 Birch Hill Road, and it suffered a fire. So he got a really good deal on the house. He got it for $610,000, which is a real bargain. And he filed for his building permit in October. But before he actually got it, he started building. And before you knew it, the addition was done. But in the meantime, he was caught. He had to halt all, construction, and then he had to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals because they said you need a variance and a special permit. So the Zoning Board of Appeals did not give it to him because they said that his hardship, which is what you need to get a variance, is not the desire for a larger home, and they can't grant variances if it doesn't meet the standards. So what he'll have to do, he withdrew his application. They approved the withdrawal without prejudice. So he'll have to reapply. He'll have to tear down what he built and reapply for a building permit.
All right, that's a costly outcome.
It is.
All right, so Joanna, let me ask you about masking requirements for businesses and the potential for enforcement actions.
Well, the Belmont Select Board and Board of Health are cracking down on businesses and multi-unit residences and apartment complexes with common areas. While the CDC categorizes COVID as cases as either substantial or high over a 2-week period, which is where we are now, they want to see signage posted at all businesses and these apartment complexes that are telling residents, visitors, and customers to wear face masks indoors. And they also want to make sure employees of these businesses and complexes also wear masks indoors at all times. And if they are caught violating this mandate, they'll be issued a warning on the first violation. And in the case of the second and third violations, they'll be issued a $300
All right, thank you so much, Joanna.
My pleasure.
Hold on a
Welcome to
second.
This Week in the Belmontonian, and we are joined by Franklin Tucker, editor of the Belmontonian, which you can find online at belmontonian.com. Welcome, Franklin. So what's happening in town?
So recently, at the last select board meeting, the select board came out and said that, you know what, we have just a lot of trash problems here in town. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So what kind of trash problems? Are we talking about trash volume?
Yeah, we're talking about trash just in the trash cans in Belmont Center and throughout the business community. We're just as Jay Marcotte, the Department of Public Works director, said, the trash levels we're seeing now are pretty substantial, and it's just that we don't have enough people. We don't have any kind of control of collecting trash over the weekend, and that's when we're seeing a lot of the trash problem happening.
So what's the plan?
So the plan is that the town is basically going to go with a plan to use the DPW to have a weekend trash pickup, and hopefully that will help the problem. That's going to cost $10,000, and they're going to try to find a way to find that money. You know, we have a large amount of free cash, but even the select board said they don't want to start draining free cash for everything they have to do in town. So it appears that they'll find the money somewhere. You know, and as Roy Epstein said, Patrice has her usual resourcefulness of finding money. So we'll see what happens there.
All right. What's next?
Well, MCAS, the town, as we know from studies throughout in the state and throughout the country, test scores, comprehensive test scores have gone down because how do you have to run a first-class education system during a pandemic? It's just so hard. And we saw a downturn, a dip in not only Massachusetts but in Belmont. The biggest dip we saw was with 3rd to 8th grade math scores. That took like a 15% dip from the 2019 scores that we had. But as always, Belmont scores are higher than the state's. So you know, while we were down, our dip or slump was less than the state. So that's the good news for Belmont. And what's going to happen is that there's about $150,000 that the school department set aside for helping students who just because of the COVID, and a lot of that money is going to be going over to for the elementary and middle school for 2 math coaches. So that's where the priority is going to be.
Okay, and I'll just say for the sake of disclosure to Franklin that I am on the school committee, and I'm not talking about my opinions in this segment. So we've got one more story, Franklin.
That's right. This is just a heads up at the fuel tank meeting that the select board is holding next week. They'll be talking about an experiment in which town-owned vehicles like police cars and fire trucks, they're going to have to be filling up at regular gas stations to see, you know, how cost effective and how efficient that is. So that's going to be a pretty neat thing that we're going to hear at that meeting.
Okay, and so how long is that experiment going to run?
It's going to run until basically the first snowstorm, basically until January.
Some may remember that we've previously reported on the continuing issue of noise from aircraft flying out of Boston Logan Airport. Today, we're joined by Ron Casablanca, chair of the Logan Airport Community Advisory Committee, for an update on a recent study. Welcome, Myron.
Great. Hi, Mike.
So, Myron, we have continuing noise problems for some Belmont residents, and now I understand that we have a new study that's looked at the issue. What does that study tell us?
So, Mike, the study was the result of our not only Belmont, but other communities taking exception to the changes that were made to flight tracks back in 2013, where they were concentrated and also more of them were flying over Belmont. The study was looking at alternatives that might be something that the FAA and the airlines would be able to fly. MIT did an exhaustive look at a bunch of different options, and they published a report with a variant that they feel could be implemented. Unfortunately, it really doesn't solve the problem we were hoping it would solve, which is to disperse and do more sort of sharing of the flights as existed prior to 2013. So it basically moves the flights around a little bit, but doesn't really address for Belmont residents the biggest problem which we have, which is down in the Grove Street neighborhood.
So Myron, it sounds as though the prospects that we'll see any reductions in noise volume from the aircraft anytime soon are not good. Is that correct?
I would say that, I need to check with we've been working closely with our neighbors in Watertown, Arlington, Cambridge, Medford, and Somerville. But, as of today, I think that the proposal is not something that I would advocate for. I think that they should be asked to do more. And realistically, once a proposal is put forward to the FAA, it's still going to take a pretty lengthy amount of time to evaluate that formally and implement it. So no, I don't see any changes happening in the short term. I think we need to keep the pressure. Yeah.
So some people might ask, why can't we use technology to solve the problem, restore some of the routes to something closer to what they were before 2013?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mike. And I think that long term, I think that is the hope. But currently, they're sort of taking baby steps in switching from radar to GPS routing, and the fleet and or the sort of airspace management network really isn't capable of doing what you suggest, which I think everybody would like, which is that why don't you use RNAV and GPS to have these flights fly 100 different paths. It's just not something that that right now the infrastructure or the airplanes, the age of the fleet is capable of doing.
Myron, I want to ask you, is there anything that residents can do?
Sure, Mike. I think that, people have already had a major impact on bringing this issue up to, both local officials and our legislators, and Congresswoman Clark has been very supportive. So I think both continuing to file complaints with Massport to let them know that this problem hasn't gone away or is still bothering people, but also to make sure that our elected officials, Senator Brownsberger and Rep. Dave Rogers have been very supportive, but keeping this top of mind and letting them know that that we collectively would hope that the FAA keeps working on trying to find a solution.
And now it's time for our periodic update with Lisa Gibelerio on wellness. This week, we're talking about easing the mental load of parenting. And as a parent, I can corroborate that it is quite a mental load. So welcome, Lisa, and tell us what you mean by easing the mental load of parenting.
Well, Mike, what we mean by that phrase is to acknowledge that parenting encompasses many, many things. We are constantly nurturing our kids. We are shopping for our kids. We're preparing food. We are organizing their activities. We're overseeing their homework. We're making play dates happen, medical appointments, dental appointments. We're driving them all over town. We're making sure the clothes are clean, the shoes fit, the form is filled out. We worry about their mental health, their physical health, and their overall well-being. This list of responsibilities, as we both just acknowledged, is endless. It is relentless, and it is exhausting. All of that is what we mean by the mental load of parenting.
So parents do face a daunting list of responsibilities and activities that they're responsible for. What can parents do to ease that burden, Lisa?
First of load. If you have a parenting partner, share the load with that partner. Delegate. Who's going to do what? Get it down on paper. Have weekly meetings where maybe you review a spreadsheet that you've put together that says what needs to be done, by when, and by whom. So getting organized is definitely a point that was stressed. You got to get it down on paper. And if you don't have a parenting partner, also get it down on paper if you can, but be reasonable, be realistic, Mike, if you're doing this alone, about what you can accomplish and what might have to wait. Not everything can be accomplished all the time. So just be reasonable with yourself, but also get it down on paper.
So getting organized seems helpful. What else would you recommend, Lisa?
A good night's sleep. That comes up all the time. A good night's sleep is a coping mechanism. It is restorative. So it's really important that we're not trying to face this particular job exhausted all the time. Secondly, find those things, identify what fills your tank, identify what's going to be restorative for you in addition to sleep. So for many of us, it's fresh air, a walk. For some of us, it's a bubble bath, a good book, a good movie. But identify that which will kind of restore you. Even taking time away from the kids can be really restorative. Also, Mike, if you have disposable income, I would say hire out for some of those things like lawn care, housework, and even childcare. Get out, away. And then finally, I'd say go easy on yourself. Acknowledge every day something you did well and know that you have a new day to start over. Parenting is a long, long journey. So take it easy on yourself.
So how about single parents? They face some special challenges. Any advice for them?
Well, as I said, the advice tends to be similar in that they should be well rested, take care of themselves, stay organized. But I guess the most important point I want to underscore for single parents is that you've got to be reasonable in your expectations with what you're going to get done. So spread things out over a month. Don't have all of the medical appointments and 3 play dates and 2 travel soccer games in the same week. Try, to the extent that you can control, try to spread those things out, keep it written down, keep a family calendar, and just set reasonable expectations for what you can accomplish in any given.
All right. Anything else to add, Lisa?
No, just to know that parenting is going to have, good phases. It's going to have painful phases. It will sometimes be a mess, and that's okay. It'll also sometimes provide a lot of joy. But get organized, get rest, and just do the best you can do.
And now it's time to mark your calendar for these upcoming community events. The Beach Street Center invites you to a free lecture on Tuesday, September 28th at 1:15 p.m. This lecture will focus on the early history of the progressive era from 1897 to 1920 and the rise of the Industrial Revolution after the Civil War that brought about many social and political problems in the U.S. Call 617-993-2976 to register. A donation is appreciated. How do we move forward collectively and individually from events that have shattered our everyday lives? What types of rituals, modes of storytelling, and other practices do people find helpful in the wake of a mass tragedy? Dr. Kate DeConnick will answer these questions and more based on her research in the wake of the 9/11 tragedy on Tuesday, September 28th at 7 p.m. This event is organized by the Belmont Public Library and was rescheduled from September 21. Register at the library website. Also online with the Belmont Public Library, join a discussion with botanist and citizen Potawatomi Nation member Robin Wall Kimmerer based on her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants, on Wednesday, September 29th at 7 p.m. Drawing on her life as an Indigenous scientist, a mother, and a woman, Kimmerer shows how other living beings including asters and goldenrod, strawberries and squash, salamanders, algae, and sweetgrass, offer us gifts and lessons, even if we've forgotten how to hear their voices. Register online at the Belmont Public Library website. And if you love music, you might be interested in the Tom Nutile Big Band concert at the Beach Street Center on Thursday, September 30th at 7 p.m. The band will present an evening of swing and big band music from the 1930s and 1940s. Refreshments will be provided. That's it for this week's Belmont Journal. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Mike Crowley, and we'll see you next time.